What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. Podcast where I have loads of energy and Brandon is sleepwalking into today's podcast. We thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching via YouTube or you're going to listen later on in the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, all that good stuff. You know it by now. If you want to follow us on Twitter for Brandon at Brandon_Stowell. Why do you still have the underscore? Can't you just get rid of that by now?
Everyone, all of my the versions, every version that I thought would that at least I liked, they're all taken.
So there's another Brandon Stoll.
Yes, everything's taken. Search all of them. They're all taken.
I'm gonna contact the Brandon Stoll that has.
No, I messaged him.
Did you?
Yeah, I was like, hey, can I have this account?
You're like, hey, you fraud. Give me my name.
I never got a response.
It's probably a bot, honestly. If you want to follow me at Stephen Priest Jr., PH, don't disrespect me with a V. All right. Huge game last night for the Denver Nuggets, in which I did not watch. I'm going to be quite frank with you. They're down 4 starters. I knew how this was going to go. And shockingly enough, they almost had a chance to win that game. So, funny there. Yeah, they lose to the Portland Trailblazers. See, maybe you're the jinx. Maybe if I would have watched and you would have not watched, they would have won. You ever think about that?
Yeah, 4 starters were out.
I'm surprised I didn't get a tweet from you last night on Chris Middleton's 30.
No, I was waiting for today. He had his 33. I don't know what Paul George did last night. I forgot to look. But
you know what my response is to Chris Middleton having a game last night is
Paul George had his normal 24, 7 to 6, 10 to 21 shooting.
But did they win? Yes.
Yeah.
The Bucks were down 74 at one point. So, just saying. I mean, they still won, but still, they were down.
Yeah, and then Chris Middleton stepped up and got them back in the game.
Stepped up. Yeah, he stepped up to be the 3rd best player on that team. The Miami Heat are going to surprise some people.
Who's the second best player on that team?
I don't know. Brook Lopez is falling out. DiVincenzo, he's a player, man. You got to watch out for him. Robin Lopez,
33 points on 14 shots.
Yeah, when's the last time he
had 8
did something
assists
like that?
and 6 rebounds?
Probably the preseason game against the Flamingos. That's probably when he did that last.
You know what? Milwaukee's bench struggled. They were all in the negatives in their plus minus. The starters plus 15, plus 30, plus 35, plus 12, plus 27.
Sounds like the Nuggets a few games ago.
Yeah,
it's Miami Heat. I'm telling you, man, the Heat, they're gonna surprise someone in this playoff run.
Yeah, and when we did the live stream, I mean, we were talking about it. I mean, they have shooters everywhere. You got your star in Jimmy Butler. Bam is a rising star. He struggled last night, 2 of 10, 6 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. But I mean, they got shooters all around with Kelly Olynyk. Even Kendrick Nunn can hit some shots. Obviously Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. You got Iggy defensively. He can hit a couple corner threes a game. So yeah, that's a talented team. And doesn't look like Jimmy Butler played last night against the Bucks either.
He didn't, and they were up by 20 plus.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it, and we could probably say this for the Lakers too. The Lakers and the Bucks aren't really, they're not really pushing the gas pedal. They're like.
You don't think so?
You know how an automatic car, you let go of the brake and it starts rolling just on its own. That's what they're doing. They're just moving because they have to move, but they're not really gonna push. At least the Lakers to me.
I'm slightly concerned about the Lakers because LeBron he sat out last night with a sore groin, but he hasn't looked great.
I mean, I think it's more of a. I think it's more of a feel out process. Until we see game 1 of the playoffs, or even maybe the first 2 games of the playoffs for that team. Same with the Bucks. You really can't know how good they really are. But I will say this: them losing to the Rockets does help the Nuggets, and the Clippers winning and beating Dallas does help the Nuggets.
Right.
Houston moves up, and I mean, surprising to me, but Dallas has, I guess their schedule was really tough because they've been in a lot of close games, but they're 1-3 in the bubble, and at this point, they're 3 games back, behind the 6th seed, and there's 4 games left, so essentially they have the 7th seed.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City's at 6, Utah's at 5, and Houston's at 4 now. Denver's a game and a half ahead of Houston with 4 games to go, so they need to win at least 2 games. And you need to hope that Houston loses one of their 4. But, I mean, at this point, it looks like Denver's going to get either Houston or Utah or Oklahoma City, and Dallas is going to play the Clippers. So, that's good for the Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, anything you can do to avoid Dallas.
And Houston. Houston's playing well.
So now someone's scared of Houston, huh?
I'm not necessarily scared. I would just much rather play Oklahoma City and Utah. Because neither of those teams are playing really that well in the bubble, and Denver matches up really well against both teams. We haven't seen Denver play small ball Houston, so I have no idea. The biggest difference is they have 2 guys who are playing really well, whereas Utah and Oklahoma City don't have 2 guys that are playing at that level. So, I mean, yeah, in order to rank them, and I think we ranked them last week, or on Tuesday. But yeah, I mean, I would go probably Utah 1, Oklahoma City 2, Houston 3, Dallas last. But I mean, the way they match up against Oklahoma City in that game where they were down 3 starters, they have no one to stop Jokic, and they have no one to stop MPJ. So, I mean, and neither does Utah, by the way. So, either of those teams would be great for Denver to play. I'm not saying they're going to sweep them, but they should win that series. Whereas against Dallas, I mean, that makes me nervous. And
you know what? I'll say this though: if the Denver Nuggets can get this form of Michael Porter Jr. and it comes to facing the Dallas Mavericks, I think I'm fine.
Right. Well, I think either of the 4 teams that they would have to play in the first round. Really, I mean, if they get that version of MPJ, and I mean, I guess we can get to it now. But if MPJ, if they're getting this version of MPJ every night, which again, he's 22, I don't think they're gonna get him. They're gonna get that guy every night. But then again, the dude is ridiculous.
Yeah, if we get the Dallas Mavericks, have you seen Home Alone?
Yeah.
Okay. You know Kevin McAllister, the main character of the movie in the first one, when the sticky bandits are trying to mess with him outside, and he comes outside and he's like, you know what? I'm not scared anymore. If MPJ plays like that, I'm going out my house and saying to Luca and Kristaps, I'm not scared anymore. That's what I'm saying. But if he doesn't play like that, I'm scared and I'm going back in the house and I'm reading everything. So when they come in.
If he continues to play like this, though,
yeah,
I'm not scared of either of those 4 teams, and also, let's go, LA.
Okay, see, no, I'm not going that far.
No. Here's the thing, though. You got a Nikola Jokic who, with the Clippers, who's gonna stop Jokic? Okay, with MPJ,
I mean, they're gonna double him, so they're gonna force everybody else to score.
Okay, but MPJ, if they're getting
all-world defender Paul George on him,
sure, but then
all-world defender Kawhi Leonard on him,
and you also have to deal with Jamal as long as he's playing and healthy. Will is coming out. The Nuggets have a lot of Here's the thing with MPJ playing the way he is, it pushes score. You have more scorers coming off the bench now, whether he's coming off the bench or not, because you add either him or Will coming off the bench. You have Monte, who's playing great right now. Even PJ Dozier is playing great. Plumlee's playing solid.
Not gonna go there.
And then you got Jeremy Grant, who's playing well as well. So and 3 of those 4 guys can score. So and then when you look at the starting lineup, you have a consistent scorer that goes along with Jokic if he's playing that way, and that's the if. But so far he's 3 for 3, well 3 for 4. But the last 3 games he's had 3 straight where he's had at least 27 and 12. He had 37 and 12, 30 and 15, 27 and 12. It's ridiculous. And not only that, but the blocks that go along with it and the defense that he's playing. So, I mean, to start off the game, he literally had a block and a steal with 10 points and like 4 rebounds.
He's such a unicorn.
That should not happen with a 22-year-old player.
He's so majestic just watching him run out there.
He still looks like at one point, I think there was a play where he got the block and then he grabs the rebound, grabs the ball, goes all the way down court, and hits a pull-up 3 from the top.
So like Bol style?
Like Bol style. And so it's just when you have that guy playing like that every night and no one can really stop him, and even when you got physical with him, he still gave you 27 and 12. Obviously, when you have Kawhi and Paul George going up against them, we'll see what happens, and we'll get a look of that in a couple of games. But here's the thing. Yeah. MPJ is 2-3 inches taller than those guys. So, I don't know. We don't know how they're going to guard them. I mean, neither of those 2 guys could guard KD. So, it's, now obviously KD is KD and MPJ is not there yet. But
and KD's like 7'1", so.
I mean, no, he's like 6'10", 6'11". He's the same size as MPJ.
He's legit 7. I mean, he's like an inch taller than MPJ. Plus, he's already established as one of the best scorers. In my mind,
well, and that's the thing. Ever. He's established, but what I'm saying though is the height and the length that MPJ has. We just don't know. We don't know how well MPJ is going to handle being guarded by those 2 guys. But the thing is though, that takes one of those 2 guys off of either Jamal or whoever else you want. At one point, I mean, if you want and you need the offense, you could start Will instead of Gary. So now you're having Jamal, Will, MPJ, that those 2 guys gotta, and you have Beverly too. So they have the defenders to do so. But again, I mean, I think that Denver has enough firepower to at least. I'm not gonna say they would win that series. Still, I'm not gonna say that yet, but I do think that it would go 6, possibly 7, instead of 4 or 5, possibly 6.
Yeah, I'm not going that far. I think maybe they get 1 game if MPJ's playing like this.
I don't know. We'll get a good look in a couple days, and honestly, it might not be a good look because if I'm alone, I probably don't even. If you beat Utah, I think they play Utah and then the Lakers, right, and then the Clippers. So if you win both of those, I'm benching everyone for the Clippers.
Really?
Like, Bol, hey, you can start. I don't want to show the Clippers anything.
Bol got 20-something minutes last night too.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it takes. 4 starters to being out. It takes Bol.
I will say that last night, the quote of the game, and obviously I didn't watch the game with 4 starters out, Millsap, Barton, Gary Harris, and Jamal Murray. I was like, I know how this is going to go. Shockingly enough, they still had a chance in the 4th quarter to win that game, which FU Portland.
With Dame going off too.
Yeah, scoring 45.
But some of those calls, I do want to say, if whoever the Nuggets are playing, if they have to play, say, Houston, Dallas, and then in the second round, if they have to play the Clippers, and they get the same refereeing from what they got last night, they're screwed. Because Luka's going to get 20-something free throws. James Harden's probably going to get 50 free throws. Russ is probably going to get 30 free throws. And then Paul George and Kawhi, they're going to each get like 30. Like,
so you're telling me it was like a Heat game then. It's just a whistle nonstop.
But it was for one guy. It was like the Heat game, but for one guy. Like, it was unbelievable. So if they get that, I mean, the referees, man, I've been trying not to say anything, but holy crap, they they've gotten worse over the break. I didn't think that was possible, but I think they've gotten
Gotta
worse.
get
I
back
think they are
into it,
worse in
you
the
know?
bubble.
You gotta get back into it, get in the rhythm
Yeah,
of
but you got all
throwing
the
the air out
stars
into the
probably
bubble.
hanging out with the refs, outside of playing games out in
I
the
think Damien's
bubble,
playing
fishing
ping
and
pong and
yeah.
going
I,
going
I
see
mean,
Mickey and Goofy
at least
with the
whoever,
refs.
I don't know who those three refs were, but he's definitely been fishing at least with those three guys. It was ridiculous.
Denver plays Utah, then the Lakers, then the Clippers, then Toronto. Best quote from last night though was they asked Michael Malone about them shadowing MPJ with Gary Trent and all that, and he's like, "Yeah, they shadowed him, and he still got 27 and 11 or whatever his stat line was."
Yeah,
Oh my god,
the
dude.
concerning part though was so they put Gary Trent in right after MPJ started going crazy. Where once he hit 10 points, because he hit 10 points in like 4 minutes. It was I think 6 minutes maybe.
He had 27 and 12 last night.
Right. So
God.
once he had 10, they put Gary Trent in there, but he bothered him because he got in his face. He got really physical.
Apparently, they played AAU ball together.
Yeah.
So they know
So
each
Gary
other.
Trent knew how to guard him, but at the same time, that was concerning. All you have to do is get physical with MPJ. But throughout the game, he kind of started to figure out how to play against a physical defender. So that's something that when they do play the Clippers, honestly, hopefully in the first round, either Utah or Oklahoma City or whoever they get has someone that will get physical with MPJ, so that way he can at least get some practice against that physical defense, because that's gonna be how you slow him down, at least for now. And I'm sure that was the same thing with guys like Kevin Durant and even Melo when he came into the league.
I think it'll be an adjustment for every player like that. They have
Right.
to learn the physicality of the game. Even Damian Lillard has to deal with that.
Mhm.
Teams blitzing him and getting in his
Right.
face. So I think that's just a natural progression for Michael.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, but still, I mean,
I think
he's
that's
27 and
gonna
12.
I think that's gonna really accelerate his growth here, and over the next like maybe 2-3 weeks. And if he adjusts the way he adjusted last night, he's gonna be not only his growth and that, like, it's gonna be accelerated like 10 times. You know how we're talking about, at least for me, it's like waiting till maybe he hits 24, but most likely 25. Same with Jamal. That physical play that he's gonna get, and if he can learn how to play against that and still put up numbers like 27 and 12, and he's doing those things consistently, that's gonna speed up his growth to where he's gonna be ready. Maybe not this year, but he'll be ready next year. That's how quickly that is going to accelerate his growth. And playing with Jokic is helping him a lot. And we've talked in the past about how LeBron accelerated Kyrie's growth, by 2-3 years. And like, because of how smart he is and the positions that he was able to put Kyrie in, helped him grow and accelerate that growth. Well, Jokic is doing the same thing for MPJ, and MPJ is getting such easy buckets to where now when he does take a three, he has the confidence. He's already in a groove, and once he hits that first three, then it's these turnaround jumpers. They ran a play just for MPJ. They gave him 2 screens. He came under the basket. He posted up and got the ball. I don't know who was guarding him. It was a smaller defender though, and he did a little. He didn't even fully turn and square up to the basket. He was still sideways to the basket, and he just kind of off the back foot just went up and just nailed it. And like, those are the things, they're running plays for him. And they're giving him easier buckets to where he can start doing those type of things. And like, that's something that when playoff time comes, and obviously it's gonna be a different atmosphere, probably when we get to the playoffs. But those are things that if he's doing that right now, it's gonna take him a couple of games, just like it took Jamal and Jokic a couple games to figure things out last year, but it's going to take him a couple games this year. But once he does figure it out, he is 100% the X factor. And I tweeted out last night, I think already he's the second best player on this team. Already. And that's just his pure talent. And
I think going off of talent, that's not wrong.
One is raw talent, because it's showing. Like, that raw talent out there, Scott Hastings said it yesterday, he doesn't know how to play the game yet. And he's putting up back-to-back 30-point double-doubles and, 3 straight, 27-plus double-doubles, where throughout the game, you can tell, like, it's the Nuggets creating shots for him. It's the Nuggets creating those points for him. And, maybe 10 to 15 of those points were just him going one-on-one, trying to figure the game out and playing like that. But for the most part, it's Jokic and Malone drawing up plays for him. That's how he's scoring. So when he does learn how to play the game and figures everything out, and once he starts to go more one-on-one with guys, what is his numbers gonna look like? Because he's only shooting the ball 14, 16 times. So what happens when he does start to go one-on-one and start shooting 20 times a game? Like, he's gonna be putting up 40 points. And the way the percentage he's shooting at, he is not only the X factor for this team to maybe challenge the Clippers or the Lakers, but he's the X factor to win it. And if they get hot, all it takes in this bubble, you just got to get hot at the right time. And if Jamal, when Jamal, Will, Gary come back, and if MPJ stays hot and Jokic gets hot, and if Jamal gets hot, or at least one of those other 3 guys, Gary or Will, if they all get hot at the right time and it's against the Clippers, they have a chance, because I think they can beat the Lakers at this point.
But you know how I feel about when you have to say if and hopefully.
But that's for any team. Like the Lakers too. They're thinking the same thing. They got to get hot at the right time.
You know LeBron, what he's gonna bring.
You know what
you're
gonna get from LeBron. You don't know. You know what you're gonna get from LeBron. You don't know what you're gonna get from AD. Not in the playoffs. And you don't know
what. You don't think so?
No.
I think so. I think he's good for 20 and 10, easy.
When has he played in deep into the playoffs? Never. We haven't seen him. We don't know what he's gonna be like.
But I mean, he's a walking 20 and 10 at the bare minimum every night.
So is MPJ.
Okay, we have 3 games showing that though.
At this point, he is.
You have like a 7-year sample size with AD.
Well, sure, but we have 3 straight games against good competition that he's put up 30. And look, he's got to keep doing it. And all this is, I guess, if he's getting I would say 24 plus 8+ rebounds for the rest of this 8 seeding games, and then probably in the first round. But we don't really know what else. What is guys like Danny Green, JR, Rondo when he gets back. Like the other guys for LA, they need those guys to get hot from 3. Because if they don't, LeBron and AD can't do it by themselves. They need those guys to at least hit, get a couple other guys to hit, 10+ points. So, in order to at least to beat the Clippers, maybe LeBron and AD by themselves can beat, Memphis Portland's gonna be an interesting series for them. But
that's 5. There ain't no way.
Well, yeah, but again, if Portland gets hot. And they can't stop Dame, and CJ gets hot, and they got guys like Gary Trent.
Guarantee the Lakers will not lose to the Portland Trailblazers.
They won't lose. They won't lose, but I could see it going 6.
I mean, if it goes 6, something is seriously wrong. Either AD or LeBron gets hurt.
I don't necessarily think that because Portland has the bigs. They have 3 7-footers that they can put out there just like LA. They got Nurkic, the Collins kid who's playing really well right now,
Collins.
And they got Whiteside. They got 3 bigs, and they got the shooting around them. They got Dame, CJ. Obviously, both of those guys can create their own shots and give you 30 any night. And they got guys off the bench who can shoot. I mean, Gary Trent, and it wasn't just last night. Gary Trent over the first 4 games has been the best 3-point shooter in the league. So, you got guys that can shoot all over for that team. And not only that, but you got the bigs. They match up well against the Lakers. They are the exact team that can bother the Lakers. The Nuggets aren't there yet because their big 7-footers aren't ready yet. MPJ and Bol might not be ready yet. But Portland, they got some bigs that can at least bother the Lakers. I'm not saying that they're going to beat the Lakers, but they'll bother them. It's a bad matchup for the Lakers in the first round. But
LA in 5.
But it'll at least wake them up, I think.
That's fair. And when you have to play Damian Lillard, you always have to be on your P's and Q's. But I pretty much agree with everything you said there. I mean, I think MPJ, if you're just looking at talent-wise, he's already the second best player on this team. And you can argue he could be the most talented player on this team. However, that doesn't factor into everything because we know consistency and all that. And, Jamal has that second tier on this team as the second best player, but it's not going to take long for MPJ to surpass him. And if he can be consistent and if he has the talent to where in this league, he can easily average 29 and 8.
Yeah, he can lead the league in scoring if he wanted to.
He has that potential. Now, of course, we know there's injury history there. There's a lot of other intangibles and factors that have to go along with that. He has to take it serious, unlike Fat Boy Zion, who keeps eating every bonbon that's placed in front of him. He is fat. I'm telling you, he is fat, like 300 pounds fat.
Yeah, he's
and there
still
has
averaging
been doctors
24 plus points per game. So,
well, imagine if he took it seriously. That's what I'm saying. Imagine if he took basketball as seriously as he's taking his next meal. That's what I'm saying to you. There's been a scout that's already said he's moving worse than he was in the bubble, outside the bubble. So he's moving worse already. And then there was a doctor that came out yesterday. I saw this on Undisputed, that's saying that Zion's in a race against his own body.
Yeah.
That meaning if he doesn't clear things up, his career is going to be way shorter than everybody expects. So I'm just saying.
I have my doubts. I have my doubts about him too. It's not about him being in shape because the team and he also can get his act together, but it's more about his shooting and leadership. It's all of that, but again, he's still a rookie. He's 19 years old.
And he better be able to bowl people over when he's 376 pounds. I mean, goodness gracious, that's all he does is lay the ball up and dunk it. I get he can do that. Anything else?
Kemp just said he's listed at 284. He's
that might be generous.
He's probably like 310.
I mean, if you look at him, there's barely any definition in those arms, and that tight jersey, I talk about it all the time. That's sport wicking. That's not muffin wicking, muffin top wicking. Yeah. It's not designed to keep all that bulge coming out. That sounded a little dirty. Not that type of bulge. Everybody keep your heads out the gutter. I'm talking about the muffin.
He's the third heaviest player in the league.
Easy. I mean, whatever Jokic did, Zion's like, I want the exact opposite. I will eat everything Jokic stopped eating. So I'm just saying, he's got to get it together. But MPJ, going back to him, yes, he has the talent to be a league-leading scorer, someday. If, of course, he takes it seriously, if he, attacks the off seasons and continues to get better, adds a little bit more muscle. I think if he added like maybe 10 pounds of muscle, he'd be ideal because he's probably somewhere around 215, 220.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, is he's still like, he's not like a toothpick like KD was. Like
he's already got a decent frame, but I think he can add a little bit more.
Yeah.
Kind of like to where Giannis is. Like if he could get around where Giannis is at, I'm sure Giannis is probably like 230, 235.
Well, if he gets to Giannis body level, no one's stopping MPJ.
Giannis has like 12'2" wingspan as well, so I'm not expecting that. But MPJ's already an all-around better scorer than Giannis. Well,
yeah,
Giannis
if he were to
gadget somebody's head.
Yeah, I mean, if he were to get Giannis is huge.
Yes.
But again, here's the thing though,
thank you for that. Wisdom from Brandon Stoll today.
The bigger you get though, you got to remember too. I think it does affect your shooting. Sometimes with basketball, you do want to you do want to be more slimmed down, like like a KD, MPJ, where he's at. Like sometimes you do want to stay at that because it is a little bit better shooting for you shooting wise.
Saying 10 pounds, he doesn't have to get shredded.
Right.
I'm not expecting him to go out there and look like LeBron and
right. Have or Giannis.
I mean, Giannis isn't like huge.
Look up Giannis. Jesus, are
I
you
mean,
are you
Giannis
kidding
isn't
me?
like he's not okay. I'm not expecting him to be like LaRon Landry. You remember when pictures surfaced of the safety LaRon Landry, and he went from like a skinny safety, and then he was a bodybuilder all of a sudden and looked like the Incredible Hulk on the field? I'm not asking MPJ to do that. I'm just saying, maybe 5-10 pounds of muscle. That's all I'm
Okay.
asking. That way he doesn't get pushed around.
Yeah. Well,
Bol
then you
Bol,
said
on the other
Giannis,
hand,
and I'm like,
we have to put Bol on Zion's diet. That's what we have to put him. He needs cheeseburgers twice an hour. Okay, we need to, because he is slimmer than a toothpick right. I mean, I could go out there and post up
yeah. Did
Bol
you see that
back
dunk that Nurkic had on him?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
gonna happen a lot.
yeah. There's nothing you can do about that. But when Bol was coming down the lane, Nurkic
Right,
didn't want to
right,
do that either. So I'm
right.
just saying, it goes two ways. You may be able to dunk on him, but his armpit's going to be in your eye socket if you try and contest his shot. That's all I'm saying. So you might get him on that one, but he's going to get
Uh,
you on that. You're going to have his arm hair up your nostrils. So quit playing around, Nurkic. That's all I'm saying.
I hate that
Um,
guy, man. You know,
I saw that he was kind of getting on the
God,
nerves.
he's such a, yeah, I can't say that word, but I
Mm,
had,
It is
yeah,
what it is. It is what it is.
whatever. I'm glad he's
He's a
gone.
good player. He's a good player, but obviously we kept the better
Oh yeah,
itch.
oh yeah.
We got the good itch. They got the bad. Well, not bad, relatively speaking, in comparison to Jokic. This was interesting. I don't know if you saw Will Barton's tweet the other day. I don't know
Mhm.
how you couldn't. But I think this is a huge step in, and we can just naturally get to this point. Has MPJ earned himself a starting spot in this lineup? I wrote about it on 104 through the fan.
I read it.
I
It was good.
Yeah, I think you. I think you're on the same page with me. MPJ needs to start. And at this point, Michael Malone has to do right by his team. He did it last year in the playoffs when Will Barton was struggling, putting Torrey Craig in. He's got to do it now, and it's not because Barton is struggling. It's because this kid is special
Yeah.
and has the talent to be a top 10, top 5 player in the league someday if he stays healthy and if everything goes right. And Will Barton already got the ball rolling on this. And he tweeted out a day ago, MPJ is special. He's ready right now. 6'10", small forward with a ratchet and a handle. Stop playing with him. Can't be on a leash with that type of ability. It's time. Got to let him be him. He is different. Everybody knows this. And at this point, I think Michael Malone is to the point where he's like, I can't even deny this talent anymore. He may mess up on defense, but at the same time, what he can bring to you offensively is so special, and the Denver Nuggets don't have that, and they probably haven't had someone like that since Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
And even then, you can argue that MPJ is probably a little bit more dangerous right now than Melo has ever been. That might be disrespectful because Melo's one of the
Well, it's his
arguably the greatest players
size.
ever.
That's the
Um,
thing. Is
well, it's
MPJ's
his
size?
size, but Melo wasn't. I don't think Melo was as great of a three. Like
No,
Melo
no.
was great in the post and great in the mid
Right.
range. He could shoot from three,
And back
but
then it wasn't a 3-point game. I think
right.
they said it on the broadcast yesterday. He's averaging a career high this year in 3-point percentage, and it's like 38.
Carmelo.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So he's got better in
he's
his
tuned
career.
his game towards
Right.
today's NBA. But yeah, no, he wasn't that guy back then.
Right. But MPJ has that now. Like MPJ's
Right.
got some Jamal in him where he's like, I could blow by this guy, but let me take this step back, contested 27 feet, and nail it in your face. And I'm like, no, why are you shooting? And then he nets it, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down. Like he knows what he's doing. He can hit that. MPJ is already different. He's already the guy. At this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if he hops Jokic next year or the year after as the best player on this team. That's literally, and that's no exaggeration because this guy is that good.
To me, he's hopped over Jamal already, and it's kind of
Yeah,
unfair because Jamal hasn't played. But
right.
what if we talked about Jamal? Consistency.
Yep.
Well, this 22-year-old kid who just turned 22, he's been 21 most of the year. He's already consistent, and he's giving you 30 and 15 every night. So, yeah, I mean, to me, and we'll see what Jamal does when he gets back, because that was third scrimmage game, man. Jamal looked special. Like, he was playing. He was that third scrimmage game was the first time I saw a Jamal that could get to that Damian Lillard like level, right? And So if he can do that every night, you're talking about they'll have Jokic gets compared to Bird and LeBron. You get
I
MPJ
love
who
that.
gets
Can we
compared
just
to
can we just like give that some love real quick? How about that? Nikola Jokic not only gets compared to LeBron by MPJ in a matter of 2 days, but then Greg Popovich, arguably one of the greatest coaches in NBA history, or not arguably, he is
yeah.
arguably the best coach in NBA history, compares him to a reincarnation of Larry Bird. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm gonna go that far. Maybe just the passing, because
Mm.
obviously Larry Bird was just like a different scorer than Nikola Jokic is. Um, but oh my god, like, and for people still wondering, oh, Carl Anthony Towns or oh, Joel Embiid. Yeah, you don't hear Pop saying, oh, Joel Embiid's the next Shaq. No, you don't hear him saying that.
Not even
He's
Shaq
saying
says that.
this gangly white guy who's just 476 pounds and morbidly obese earlier in the season. Now he's a slim 275, and he's so awkward and just weird. And he's over here just getting
Weird.
compared to Larry Bird. He's weird. Honestly, he's weird. But I
He
love him
is
for it.
weird.
I want to be his best friend really badly. I just wish me and Philip Lindsay and Nikola Jokic could just be best friends and hang out together and just have a TV show, because I think it'd be amazing. But yes, just for him to get compared
Yeah.
to those guys, and obviously, yes, he's not LeBron, he's not Larry Bird,
No.
but I think the IQ and the passing ability and just his impact on the game is similar to those guys.
Yeah, and I think he has the potential to go down as one of the best centers of all time.
Oh,
Like
easily.
he has that skill level, and so and Kemp said this earlier, and I wanted to kind of get to this too because uh, it kind of goes into all of this where look, he should start. There's no question anymore.
MPJ, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not because of Will, it's because of MPJ. And Will's gonna handle it like a pro because that's who he is. And I think when Will gets back, they could really use him coming off the bench. I think that bench unit really does need him. And I think, in the playoffs last year, coming off the bench, especially in the second round against Portland, he was awesome. So that's his perfect role, and that's why I've been wanting him on coming off the bench for so long. He starting him at the 3, I think is putting him in a position where that's not his natural position. To me, he's a guy that should come off the bench that can give you 15 points at the 2 spot. And maybe, depending on what Gary Harris does coming back, maybe Will should start at the 2. But
that's what I was thinking. If anybody, who should be the one that drops off from the starting lineup? Should it be,
in my mind, it
honestly,
should be Will. It should be Will because of
I
his
think it should
scoring
be
ability.
matchup driven. That's what I think.
It should be what?
Matchup driven.
Matchup
So
driven?
it depends on, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're playing Portland, somehow that happens. If you're playing Portland, I'd rather
You'd rather
Gary
start
be out
Gary,
there.
yeah.
If it's,
Okay, well,
I
let's
don't know,
go
if
down
it's
the list real
Dallas,
quick before I get
Will
to
Barton most likely. I don't know,
Kemp's
maybe I
point
want Gary.
earlier. Let's go down the list. Houston, who do you start?
Gary.
Okay. Dallas, who do you start?
Probably start Gary because he's gonna guard Luka.
Okay, Oklahoma City.
Probably will, because there's no one.
What about
There's
Shea?
no one.
Because Shea was playing really well against them.
I mean, okay, well, now that you say this, then I think maybe I just do start Gary and I take Will off.
I think the only team that you start Will is Utah.
Who's going to guard Donovan Mitchell, though?
Oh, yeah.
You want Jamal Murray on Donovan Mitchell?
I guess not. And look, Will's not a bad defender. He's a good defender when he wants to be. Like when he locks up, he can play well. So
that's just where Gary makes his money.
But it's Gary does it every night, every single second of the game. So, and they really miss Gary against Lillard. You could tell. Like Torrey can't stick with the small guards. As great of a defender as he is, he has to defend maybe either the smaller 3s or I guess the bigger 2s or 3. That's where he needs to live defensively. He can't guard the smaller guards. He just can't. He's not quick enough. So like that's I think if you have, I think Will is a perfect guy to come off the bench because he can give you that defense in spurts, but offensively he's gonna go out there and he's gonna look to score. He's that. It's like, why did James Harden come off the bench for Oklahoma City all those years? Why did Manu Ginobili come off the bench for the Spurs? It was that instant offense that they could kind of get the team going, and get the second unit going. So that to me is, I think, the perfect role for him. Whereas offensively for that, or defensively for that starting lineup, I think you need a more balanced starting lineup. So if you have Jamal, MPJ, and Jokic, who are all more offensive heavy, you do need two other guys that can be more defensive heavy. So to me, that starting lineup is perfect in my mind, having Gary at the 2, Paul at the 4, and you go with the other 3. And look, MPJ affects the game defensively too. His length bothers guys at the rim. Not to mention his offensive rebounding and also his defensive rebounding too. Like, his rebounding overall helps them a lot. So I think that's the starting lineup that we're probably going to see for the next 2 years, probably 2. And then, Will coming off the bench, I think, is your perfect 6-man. But going to Kemp said, a better question: can MPJ be the centerpiece in Denver that attracts better talent? The league still seems slightly cold on Jokic despite the numbers and obvious talent. You can go on that.
Yeah, I think God bless your soul. Bless your soul. I think, and I was thinking about this the other day, if you get MPJ to turn into a 25, at the bare minimum, 25 and 8 guy, a night, and Jokic stays Jokic, an all-star center, one of the best players in the league. If Jamal can turn into 22, 23 a night, if not more, how do you not, and at that, you also have a guy in Bol coming off the bench. How do you not, as a free agent, say, oh my God, why do I not go there? I can easily just fit in there. Now it depends on what type of free agent, because there might have to be some sort of sign-in trade going into that, unless Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke are willing to go in the luxury tax for something like that. But how could you not want to, say if you're Giannis, okay, and you keep, you don't get over the hump with the Bucks, but you look in Denver and you see, okay, there's MPJ, there's Jokic, Murray's still probably there, and Bol, and you're like, I could go there. The pressure is not on me because if Giannis comes here, okay, and go with me here for a second. This might be kind of crazy, but think about this. When is Giannis free agent? Not after this year, but next year, right?
2021.
So, okay, so still another season. If MPJ reaches that trajectory, all right, he's 25, 27 a night, 9 rebounds, 8 rebounds, whatever. Jokic is still Jokic. Giannis comes here. Who's the best player on the team? Who can you definitively say, oh, he's the one? It's not Jokic, so we can take him out. But if MPJ turns into that guy, Giannis could be like, well, I don't have to be the guy every night. Whereas in Milwaukee, he's the guy. He has to be on every single night, and he's got to pray and hope Chris Middleton can be Chris Middleton from last night, or at least 75% of that. Otherwise, they really have no chance. They have great role players, but those guys aren't going to carry that team. If he comes here, if Giannis struggles, okay, I have MPJ, I have Jamal Murray, I have Nikola Jokic, and 7'2" Bol coming off the bench. So I can have an off night and still feel comfortable. I can score 15 tonight because I know MPJ could have 30 and Jokic could have 27 and Jamal could pour in 15. If I'm Giannis, if I'm one of those type of free agents, why would I not think, oh my God, the Denver Nuggets are literally just drop me in, and that's with LeBron getting older, with Kawhi taking off 90 games a year until the playoffs. I think easily this could be a destination. However, we know with the history of the Denver Nuggets, it's known as a flyover city in the NBA. I don't know. To me, I think if you want to win, if you're a player that wants to win a championship and you don't care about the destination, if you're Bradley Beal, if you're Giannis, I don't know who else is going to be a free agent here soon. Why wouldn't you consider the Denver Nuggets? I mean, that just seems like a no-brainer to me if you want to win.
Yeah. Here's my thing. I don't necessarily think. I guess here, if MPJ turns out to be the guy that we think he is, and obviously he's on that track, and he stays healthy, because that's also a big concern with him.
It's the biggest one.
They don't need a free agent. They can win with their group.
Sure.
But
having a Giannis would be really nice.
Well, I just don't think
it's Lambo and a Maserati in the garage, but man, that Porsche sure looks nice. And I would love to have it.
It would be nice, but what I'm saying though is just it's not realistic. At least in my mind, It's just not.
Sure.
And
maybe it's not even a Giannis level free agent. What if it's a CJ McCollum or a Bradley Beal though? What if it's a second tier guy?
Sure, and you can replace Gary with that type of guy, but here's the thing: you also got to pay. You're paying Jokic and Jamal. You got to pay MPJ, and if Bol Bol turns out to be really good, you got to pay Bol Bol. There's really with bird rights, with owning a player's contract from their rookie season, you can max out 4 guys, but that's it. So the Nuggets they're in the position that Golden State was in, I would say, 2015.
They're going to be very top heavy if it comes to that.
Well, the way Golden State built their team, they got lucky just like the Nuggets, but they got lucky because they got Steph at 7, they got Klay at 11, Draymond was a second round pick, and then they got Harrison Barnes right around mid first round. So they were able to get and draft 4 guys similar to the Nuggets, where you have Jamal, MPJ, and Jokic, and Gary. So you have 4 guys that you can kind of build around the team. But what did Golden State need in order to get really to that next level? Because they wouldn't have beat the Cavs if the Cavs had Kyrie. Even if they had just Kyrie, I think they would have won that series. So, say that were to have happened, they really needed Kevin Durant, essentially, to put them over the top to be able to beat LeBron, right? And LeBron and Kyrie. So, and Kevin Love. So, with the Nuggets, you already have that guy in MPJ. He is the type of player that he is your Kevin Durant. You got Kevin Durant without having to go out and get him in free agency. You essentially got that guy that you need in order to win a championship. Because in my mind, you need that guy to win. If you don't have a guy like that, a wing guy who can score and also defend, you don't have a chance to win. That's why it gets limited down to the Lakers, the Clippers, and even the Bucks. Because no other team has that guy. And when KD and Kyrie are healthy, it'll be them too. And those will be the big 4 teams. So for the Nuggets, if you already have that guy, yeah, he's young, so you got to wait a couple of years. But if I'm the Nuggets right now, it's not really a concern to have to go out and get someone like that. They don't need to make a trade and push for Bradley Beal. They don't need to go out and get a CJ McCollum. They don't need to go out and try and push for a Giannis. They can, because if they want to, they can go for it, because they can, because MPJ is on his rookie contract for another 2 years.
Well, I have the contracts up right now. I just looked it up.
Bol is another 3 years.
Realistically, they're going to have a window of 2023. Once we go to the 23-24 season, because Nikola Jokic is under contract through 22-23. So in 2023, he'll be a free agent. Jamal is going to be under contract through 24-25. So in 2025, he's a free agent. MPJ, you're going to have him as an RFA in 2022. And Bol Bol, he'll be an RFA in 2021. So, or 21-22 that season, I believe it is. So, I mean, you have a good 2 to 3 years legitimately here with this new core, because now this is the new core. Okay, now it's MPJ, it's Jamal, it's Jokic, and Bol Bol's in the mini sidecar. All right, so That's you have 2 sidecars on the motorcycle. You have Bol in one, and you have Jamal in the other because he got kicked off the back seat. It's all about who's holding Jokic because Jokic he's the driver right now. So who's holding Jokic's love handles right now? Now it's MPJ that gets to hug him on the motorcycle. Now Jamal's been booted to one of those sidecars, and he's got the helmet on with the goggles, kind of like Snoopy. That's Bol in one, and that's Jamal in the other.
When we're talking about the starting lineup, let's take Bol out of it because I'm not ready to put Bol in this core. Okay. Not yet. Fair. I think he has a potential, and God, it's so fun to watch him. It's like yesterday he had just a few plays or like a 5-minute stretch where I'm just like, what the hell is going on? But let's take him out.
Large Bambi running around.
Let's take him out just because I guess it gets a little unfair, but so let's take him out. So you got Jamal, and because Ken brought up another player, so Jamal, MPJ, and Jokic. That's your 1, 3, and 5, right? For the next, Jokic is gonna most likely resign. Why would he leave? And he has no ties to another city here in the U.S., right? So there's no real reason for him to leave,
unless the franchise takes a nosedive for some reason.
Right. I mean, unless something happens, unless something really bad happens. So,
which I will cry for weeks on end. I might go into a deep depression.
So let's say Jokic signs another 4-year deal. Okay. Let's say Jamal does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got those guys, and you are gonna have to pay MPJ, but not until what, 2022 is what you said? Yes. He was driving 2018, so yeah, 2022. So you don't have to pay MPJ until 2022. So at that point, you can't afford a free agency because remember, as currently constructed, they have $30 million going to Paul Millsap. You have 15 going to Gary, and you have another 15 going to Will. You have 11 going to Plumlee. So they can spend the money. They have the money to where they can go out and get a star, or at least a big free agent. So let's take Giannis out. Who's a guy that you would want to see them within the next 2 years in 2020 and 2021? I have the 2021 NBA free agency class up. Okay. So that's the. You know what? Let's look at 2020. I don't think 2022.
Well, here's my thing. If you're saying, and I agree with you too. Like obviously if all these guys develop and pan out and be what they are, they don't need to go get.
Well, no, because they have Damian Lillard. And I'm going to get crazy here, but essentially they have Damian Lillard, they have Kevin Durant, they have another Kevin Durant, and they have Jokic.
You're getting real nuts there, but I get what you're saying. Yes.
But essentially, if they all hit their peak,
3 stars,
if they all hit their highest possible potential, they have not only 4 stars, they have 3 top-tier superstars with another potential superstar.
You're getting real nutty saying all those names, but I get what you're saying. Here's my thing, though. Yes, they don't. If they do that, you don't need that. So at that point, what do? You build your team with specialists, shooters, defenders, 3-and-D guys. That's what you do, right?
Here's the 2020 class: Fred VanVleet, Joe Harris, Danilo Gallinari, Montrezl Harrell, Christian Wood, Paul Millsap, Tristan Thompson, Derek Favors, Goran Dragic, Aaron Baines, Marcus Morris, Marcus Sol, the good Morris, Serge Ibaka, Dwight Howard, Jeremy Grant's a free agent, Anthony Davis is a free agent, Brandon Ingram is restricted, Gordon Hayward has a player option, he'll probably opt in, DeMar will probably opt in, the rest will probably all opt in. So at the top here, though, and this is the upcoming draft. Here's the to do you want to spend the money in this offseason? Because you're going to, again, Plumlee's a free agent. Grant's a free agent. Paul Millsap is a free agent. And you got to remember, too, Monte Morris is going to be a free agent, I think, after next year.
Next year,
I think it's going to be easy for them to let Monte go and bring in PJ Dozier. But, you're going to have to pay Gary in, 2 years? So it's just how do you want to spend? In my mind, honestly,
Gary's
best
under
case
for another
scenario.
2 years. Pretty sure.
Okay, in my mind, best case scenario, you go ahead and you re-sign Paul for 2 years. For a lower deal, maybe like
Better be a
15.
discounted contract.
Yeah,
Though.
like half the
Gotta
price.
be like half. Yeah.
Right, which I think he would do. He's at the end of his career. He got his money, and you re-sign Jeremy Grant because I think he could be potentially your future four.
What do you do with Plumlee?
I would like to re-sign Plumlee unless you go out and unless you need a backup center, unless you're willing to go with Bol, but I don't think you're there yet. So I think you go out, you either re-sign Plumlee, but on a lower deal or very similar. If he wants more money, you have to let him go. Maybe you go out and get a guy like Marc Gasol. I think he would be a good fit. I think Marc Gasol, because he's one of the best passing big men.
Right.
I think he fits the style. There.
Yes.
I think that's the guy that you.
Three of those names on that list interested me. Fred VanVleet, goodness. He's been playing really well for the Raptors. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a shooter, kind of do it all guard.
But again, he's going to cost more money.
Yeah, I don't know if you want him though, because you have a guy like Monte, and your front court, your back court's kind of already.
Well, he's listed as a 2. You can play him at the 2. But you have Gary and Will.
To be a 2. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The backcourt is already.
You don't need more guards.
Jammed. Montrezl Harrell is an interesting one because that's a guy who is capable of 20 points a night. Obviously, he's not the passer that Mason Plumlee and Nikola Jokic is, but he brings scoring, defense, and he's just got nasty to him, which the Nuggets don't have on this team.
But you're gonna have to let go of a Paul Millsap and potentially also a Jeremy Grant with the money that he's gonna want. So you gotta lose Paul Millsap. So are you willing to trade Paul Millsap and Jeremy Grant? I'm about to jump into like 2K and like do this, like just as an example with money wise, because I'm curious.
And this is assuming that he doesn't stay with the Clippers, though, right? So
right,
assuming that.
But honestly, I mean, if you're the Nuggets, are you willing to risk going after him and letting a guy in Paul Millsap, who is a leader on your team, who you do need defensively? His rotations are really well. He fits with the team really well. And are you also willing to risk letting go of a guy like Jeremy Grant, who you went ahead and traded for to be your future 4?
I think I might.
Because I don't know if you have enough money for Montrezl Harrell and a Jeremy Grant. You're for sure letting Plumlee go.
Maybe you have to lose 2 of the 3 out of Plumlee, Millsap, and Grant for that to happen. Maybe
I think Grant's going to take too much money too, though. I think you would be able to afford a Harrell and Plumlee. I don't think you could afford Harrell with either of the other 2. Unless Jeremy Grant takes a massive discount. But I think the teams are going to go and give him a lot of money.
That's a name that interested me. The third one is Joe Harris because he's a shooter.
Yeah.
And he's in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
That's a guy that, and man, when is Hero or Duncan Robinson a free agent? Because I would love to have one of those guys.
They're rookies, so they're not going to be a free agent for
they're
like
both
7
rookies?
years. Yeah, they're both rookies.
Oh wow. Okay. God, I would love to have one of those guys.
So here's the thing. How about this? Let's say you re-sign Paul to maybe even a 1-year deal. You bring Plumlee or maybe a Marc Gasol, and you keep Grant. So say you essentially
you don't think
keep
Marc Gasol's going to get big money though?
No,
I mean, not big money.
He's at the end of his career. He'll get just as much as Plumlee. So let's just say everything stays similar, and you just move your money essentially a year later. So in 2021, you have Kawhi Leonard, who can opt out. LeBron James,
he'll probably stay, though.
Who can opt out.
He'll stay.
Giannis, Paul George, who can opt out. Drew Holiday, Bradley Beal. Oh yeah, I guess so. He only signed an extension, a shorter one, right?
Yep, and he's eligible to be traded after this season.
Okay, Bradley Beal, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Victor Oladipo, DeMar DeRozan, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, Anthony Davis. Well, whatever. Anthony Davis is on 2020. Chris Paul, Gordon Hayward will be officially a free agent if he doesn't opt out. The list goes on and on. So, Yusuf Nurkic is also going to be a free agent. Will Barton is a free agent though. Let's say you
21 or 22.
21. So let's say you give Paul a 1-year deal. Let's say you sign Grant to a 3 or 4 year deal. Again, signing trades you can work out, moving guys. See, that's where I wouldn't sign someone for big money this offseason in the 2020 because the potential in the 2021 offseason is so much higher. And not only that, but you have a whole season to prove to some of these free agents that, hey, we're building something. We have the money. Let's go crazy. Let's essentially do what Golden State did. So I wouldn't spend money in 2020. What I would do, I would re-sign Paul. It's probably going to take a 2-year deal, so you might have to do a sign and trade later on in the 2021 season or off season. If for whatever reason you do get Giannis, you would end up having to
a team option type of thing in the second year.
You would have to do a sign and trade. So no, I think it would be maybe a 3-year deal, similar to basically the exact same deal, just cut in half. So a 3-year deal with the third year being a team option, and then he would go. Let's say hypothetically they land Giannis, then Paul Millsap would also be going to Milwaukee, as well as possibly Jeremy Grant, because you would have to pay him anywhere between 15 and 20 mil. So you would have to both of those guys go to Milwaukee on a sign and trade. Milwaukee won't get anything else because you don't have to give them anything else. You just have to give them enough to open up money, because Giannis is a free agent, right? So Milwaukee wouldn't get anything if Denver had the money, just outright. But they wouldn't if they were to re-sign Paul and Jeremy Grant. So sign and trade, those two guys go over. You let Will go because you won't be able to sign Will. So essentially now you're looking at, and I don't know who else is for Denver as a free agent in 2021.
I think it would be Monte, right?
Do you have it up still?
I can look it up. Yeah, I don't know. So this coming free agency seems like a role player free agency, but I think when you get to 21, a lot of those guys, the big names, I don't foresee them I don't think
Torrey's a free agent, Monte's a free agent, PJ is a free agent this year. They're gonna have to sign PJ as well. Bull's contract is weird. I don't know exactly how his contract works, if he does have a full 4 years, because it's a 2-way contract. So I don't know how that works.
So obviously the Nuggets will pick up Porter's club option. Bol will be an RFA in 21. Monte will be a UFA. Will have a player option. And Jeremy's going to be a UFA.
Bol is going to be restricted. That means someone can throw 30 mil at Bol if they wanted to, and force Denver to match. It gets tricky. It gets really tricky. I think the Nuggets got to work on signing Bol right now. If they can get him a 3-year deal,
they got to do his contract.
They got to rip up that 2-way. Yeah, they got to do essentially what they did with Monte. I don't know.
You're putting a lot of faith into him, though. Guy who has injury history, or just the foot issue.
Well, they're only paying Monte 1.5 and 1.6 mil.
Ooh, that's gonna be a tricky one. I mean, you're gonna lose at least. You're probably gonna lose. I mean, Will Barton has a player option that year, though, so I would assume he'd probably opt in. He's gonna be 30 at that point, and if he gets moved to the bench, and he's not averaging well, is he going to be able to get more than the 13 mil that he'd get if he opted in? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at,
but I agree. Here, I think we're on the same page. though, that with this next free agency, don't spend a lot. Maybe you just go for a specialist. Maybe it's a Montrez, or not a Montrez. Maybe it's a Joe Harris. Somebody that you can
Yeah, I
get.
would want
What
another
is
shooter.
JJ Redick's contract? I know
That
he's like
you want it essentially.
47.
You want a JJ Redick type of guy.
Yeah. I mean, I know.
What
JJ's
about what if you
old,
brought back Gallo and brought him off the bench?
Sure. I mean, how much is Gallo gonna ask for though?
Gallo might ask
what is Gallo gonna be? How old is Gallo? He's got to be mid-30s by now, right? It's like 34, 33.
I have no idea
at this point.
Bogdan Bogdanovic is a restricted free agent, so you probably won't get him.
I love the Bogdanoviches. They're just my favorite.
All these guys have player options. Malik is restricted. God, if they still had Malik.
I don't want to talk about it.
But yeah, most of these other guys are restricted. So I don't know. I wish they would have brought Melo in. I think Melo would have been a perfect fit coming off the bench for this team.
Maybe next year.
I don't see any other guys who can just flat out shoot the ball. A Jordan Clarkson, but even then,
Kind of streaky. I mean, the only guy that stands out as a shooter on that list is Joe Harris. I don't know what his splits are. I would assume he's probably maybe mid to high 30s. Because other than that, I mean, that's what he's known for, is just his shooting.
I think
ability.
Kyle Korver is a free agent.
Yeah. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's spend less this coming free agency, possibly strike big in the next free agency if that's a possibility. I don't think Kawhi is leaving. I don't think Paul George is leaving. I don't think LeBron or AD will leave.
Yeah, I think the main thing is Kevin Durant wouldn't have gone to Golden State if they didn't do what they did the previous 2 years, right? So Denver has to show, they don't have to get to the finals, but they have to show that they are this close from getting past the Lakers or Clippers.
They have to show what the Clippers have shown for Kawhi and Paul George to come.
Yeah.
I mean, they were dropped onto a 48-win team, without any stars, any major stars.
Right. And they pushed Golden State.
Exactly. And that's what the Nuggets have to show. And I think that if they can remain a top 3 seed and get to the second, maybe the Western Conference Finals one of these next 2 years, then I think that really, I hope it signals to one of these top free agents that, you know what, if I go there, I'm the missing link, and we can, at the bare minimum, get to the Western Conference Finals. That's what you have to hope for.
Yeah.
And whether that'll happen, whether Denver remains a flyover city, even with these guys, that remains to be seen. Because we saw it last year.
But I also don't think you need one of these free agents either. Not anymore.
Sure. If these guys turn into what they are.
If MPJ works out.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
The Nuggets are definitely, talk about really for Denver sports right now. You have 4 teams that have legitimate buzz around their young stars. With the Rockies, obviously Nolan's not necessarily young anymore, but you have Nolan, you have Trevor Story, Kyle Freeland, if he can play like he did his first year and right now how he's playing instead of last year, a lot of buzz. And then you go to the Avs with obviously Nathan McKinnon, and they look like they're a legitimate Stanley Cup.
Yeah, they can
contender.
Get there.
Yeah. McKinnon, and you have Rantanen, and you have Cale Makar, and then you go to the Nuggets with obviously their core: Jokic, Murray, and PJ Bol, and then you get to the Denver Broncos, Philip Lindsay, obviously headlining that. Drew Lock, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Bradley Chubb if he can remain healthy. All these guys, you're like, whoa, Denver sports right now is really, they're on to something. Now, obviously, we need these guys to pan out. We need injury histories to just get flushed away. But Denver sports, it's a fun time to be a Denver sports fan right now. So,
yeah, and it's going to be, and that's the thing, all 4 teams are young. So, for the most part. So, yeah, it's going to be, at least for the Nuggets too, it's going to be for the next.
Which one of these teams wins a championship first? The Avs. Think so?
I think the Avs have a good shot this year.
Yeah. I'd probably say you're right.
And there are I think there are a lot of people's pick this year. I mean, they're really good.
Right.
Like, they're insane. Yeah, second I would go the Nuggets. And again, it's all on MPJ because I mean, look at NBA's history. You need that guy at that position with that type of talent. If you have that guy, you can win it. You just need the pieces around him. And basically, the Nuggets have done it backwards. They got that guy after their other stars, which doesn't, that's not supposed to happen. They got how MPJ. The Clippers pass up on MPJ twice.
A lot of teams pass up on him.
Well, no, yeah, but the Clippers had the 12th and 13th pick in that draft.
But at the same time, the concerns were real.
Well, but Embiid went third, and he had similar stuff. Ben Simmons went first. Like, there is no reason. Even when that draft, because I remember that draft, I was watching, and I was so excited because I thought, because I wanted Denver to go after MPJ because I knew that they were a team that they could wait on his injury. But not only that, I thought they would have to jump up into the top 10. I thought they would have to make a trade. And because I remember tweeting during the draft, I was like, they got to make a trade now. They got to make a trade now. And they never did. And when the Clippers came up, I just remember thinking, well, crap, the Clippers are going to grab them because they were in another similar position at that time. But I mean, with some of the picks that some of the teams made, it was the 2018, right? In 2018 NBA draft.
Yes.
There's no reason why MPJ should have fell to 14. You had DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, Luka. Okay, those Jaren Jackson, Trae Young. He wasn't gonna go top 5. But once you hit 6, he should have started to go. Mo Bamba went 6. And at the time, again, he's a big center. This was a big center draft. And I think a lot of teams were going after those guys. But looking at the past couple of years with guys who had injury history, they still win top 5, the top 3. And MPJ was supposed to be the number 1 pick in this draft. So the Clippers ended up taking... Yeah, they had 12 and 13. They ended up taking Miles Bridges and Jerome Robinson. Miles Bridges ended up getting traded to the Hornets. So they came out with Shea and Jerome Robinson. And then the Hornets took Miles Bridges. The 76ers took Mikal Bridges. The Knicks at 9 took Kevin Knox. I don't know how he. I get it. He had the injury, but even then, you can look at past drafts and guys who were injured and serious injuries going into the draft, like Joel Embiid, and they still went top 5. I don't know. The Nuggets. The Nuggets got so lucky. And that's what it takes. I mean, look at the Golden State Warriors. They got lucky. Steph fell to 7, yep. and that's the draft that Minnesota took 2 point guards in the top 5.
Right.
And neither one of them were Steph.
Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio?
Yeah. And then they took Ty Lawson, too, and then Denver traded for Ty. So
it's like when the Sixers drafted like 7 centers in 2 drafts.
Right. And Clay dropped to what, 11? I think 11 or 12.
Hate that.
Draymond was a second round pick or a late first round pick. I think second. Harrison Barnes fell to like 14 or something. So,
but I mean, the concerns were legitimate. I mean, I get it. It looks bad now because he's balling out. But I mean, at the time, listen, he had back issues, and that's like a sign of like red flags.
Well, yeah.
NBA player with back issues. Didn't he tear his ACL too? Or was that his brother? I think his brother tore his ACL.
Yeah,
I think MPJ just had back issues.
But here's the thing. The 76ers had the 10th pick. And they're known for going after guys who were injured. And at that time, they weren't ready yet. Right. They weren't, a team that was going to make the playoffs. At least at that moment. I think they ended up making the playoffs that year. But you know, the 76ers of all teams within those first 14 picks, or even the Clippers too, because at that time they still had Chris Paul. I believe they still had the rest of their guys, right? Blake Griffin. I think they all still had. So. They were all still there. So they were another team that was in perfect position to take MPJ. So again, I don't know why. I don't know why he fell to Denver, and it blows my mind every time I think about it.
But it happened, and I will take it.
They got lucky, and that's what you need. That's what you need. You
either
need to win the lottery. Yeah. You either need to win the lottery, or you need a guy to drop to you.
Yeah. Kudos to the front office for drafting well. Hopefully these guys can pan out and get to where we want them to be, because there's a real shot here, if all potential is met, or at least 80% met, that the Nuggets could be a juggernaut for years to come. That's going to do it for us today. We want to thank you guys for watching, whether via YouTube or if you're listening later on the podcast. Really yes, it was. But that's going to do it for us. We will catch you guys next time. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. I will throw this up after